afternoon all. Okay, so we have this these quarterfinals, I believe. Here are the two boards for the quarterfinals. Put them side by side for a moment. And so Vladimir Kramnik against Vishy Anand, Michael Adams against Peter Svidler. So I think it's like Group 1 and Group 2. The top two from Group, I think one were Anand and Adams, and so the top two from Group 2, Svidler and Kramnik. This should be quite exciting. Okay. In the FIDE Open, it seems Magnus Carlsen's second, Ludwig Hammer, is leading the FIDE Open at the moment by half a point. He's playing a very tough opponent, Stado, who is actually higher rated than him on the FIDE ratings in the FIDE Open. That's quite an interesting event as well. But the festival is coming to an end tomorrow, so it will be the finals for this, and the FIDE Open is ending as well. 9-round FIDE Open ends tomorrow. Hammer is playing actually Bartel from Poland, a 2.649. Hammer is 2.612 at the moment. But anyway, this Super 16, much higher rated Grandmasters. So we've got here. Let's have a look. Kramnik against Anand, Adams against Svidler. Any predictions from you guys? Do you think Kramnik will beat Anand or vice versa? Or draws? What do you think? Do you think Adams will beat Svidler? Keith is doing okay from Nick White. He won 5, lost 1, and defaulted 1 as he couldn't make it. Keith Arkell, you mean? Keith Arkell. Hebson's on 4.5. Neil McDonald's doing well, 5. So, Game Profane, you reckon Anand will beat Kramnik? So, Kramnik is, of course, a past FIDE world champion, as well as a past what they called classical world champion when there was that split between the PCA and FIDE. That split created by Kasparov and Nigel Short. So Kramnik has 2 world champion types of belt title behind him. But of course Vichy's being world champion 5 times, is it? 5 times? Adams and Swidler. Adams was very close to becoming world champion on a FIDE knockout many years back. But he lost in the final, I think, to... Anyway, so D4 from Vladimir. I think I expect a Slav defense on this game. The Slav defense with that C6 and then E6 later, semi-Slav. I expect a semi-Slav basically here. And here I might expect E4, C5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop B5. Blimey, he has played C5. Oh, we're not getting a Slav. We might be getting a Nimzowinjan or a Catalan here. Are we going to get knight C6, bishop B5? Nope. Okay. G3. Wow. Okay, we have got that Slav structure anyway. Bishop G5. Quick exchange on F6. So a closed Sicilian here. An early knight E4. Is this queen going to be attacked again? No, I don't think it can be. With knight H4 we just take. So where would this knight move? Maybe back to D2 to attack C4. Or maybe we can consider knight FD2 to attack C4 with the other knight. Oh, no, knight D2. E takes D5 here. I'm not sure that prompts his white that much. After knight takes D5. It's quick E5, okay. So this queen, should we have an analysis board for a moment? Let's have a flick through here. Alright, so 97. So if we could play c3, then d4 maybe, try and reinforce e5, and then later maybe consider something like this, or something like this, like Fisher, the old Fisher plan of attack to try and get onto the dark squares. You try and weaken these dark squares further, is the old Fisher plan. But c3 here, I mean, by establishing this pawn chain, we're also kind of blunting the bishop. There's going to be also maybe we need to protect e5 anyway. I think c3 is a reasonable move idea. C4. Nice instead. Using the queen on the e file, cd and e6 is actually effective instead of just trying to support the e5 pawn. I guess we've always got bishop f4 if needed for bishop g7. So this is interesting, c4. More aggressive than c3. Let's check the other one. Oh, we've had knight f5. That's interesting as well. Oh, look at this. So, knight f5. Knight b6 has been played. I guess we could take off the dark square bishop. I'm not sure what advantage give, or maybe more likely. Knight d6. Or just what about reinforcing it with knight e3? If we just reinforce that knight. Keeping pressure on e7 here. Then maybe an exit queen c2. This looks like a reasonable move. Knight c to e3. Actually, there might be a nuisance threat at some point with knight g4 as well, hitting the queen again. Let's see what's happening here. Alright, so we've got that pawn on e5 reinforced for the moment. If black played queen c7, I think we could just take and then e6, hitting the queen. Black can't really put more pressure on e5 at the moment, it seems. So it looks kind of comfortable, I think. If we check this out, let's check this out here. So, say d4, you know, be considering the e4 square. I think we can just castle, and then maybe later the e4 square is useful at some point. But shorter term is also the idea of just playing for like b4 against this pawn chain if d4 is played. I wonder if d4 isn't played. I mean, it looks kind of dangerous, this e6. If takes, let's go with takes e6.
Check.
Even though the white king hasn't castled, I think knight g5 is possible here. What is it? Knight g5 for knight f7.
Check.
I'm taking here,
Check.
and actually protecting the queen here.
Check.
Winning a rook. So I think e6 is a threat, even if the white king's in the centre here. So I'm wondering if black's going to consider, well, it looks likely for d4, but yeah, this looks pleasant enough for white. If d4 happens. Let's check the other one again. Oh, we had some action there. So knight f5, knight b6, knight takes e7, queen d6. A small little edge for white. So let's imagine, let's go to this position, have a quick check on things. So the queen just went back. If the queen had taken, I think that's a little bit of annoying pressure on b7. What do we do about this bishop? And then later white could actually play f4 and e5, and he's got 4-3 pawn majority on this side of the board. So getting an advanced knight on d6 in conjunction with the pawns here would seem pretty nifty actually. The pawn's ready to roll a bit forward, maybe to create a pass pawn pretty soon after that, and the bishop having good scope on the diagonal. So that was avoided by retreat, queen d8. So giving white that question to take or not, keeping that tension. If rook d1, I think we can maintain the tension and still develop the bishop with bishop e6, just protect the queen again and hit the knight. So bishop e6 here. What else can white do though? White can play something like queen c5 maybe. Queen c5. It's kind of annoying on this diagonal. Maybe then black could consider taking on c4 though. And again, we could get the bishop out. Okay, let's go back to the other game for a moment. So let's say I don't know about not playing d4. If we don't play d4, okay, Mark Young, you've got a suggestion, yeah? So d takes here, d takes, knight d4. Knight takes d4, c takes d4. You can say this looks good for black. Possibly. White's got some advantages though. There's a 3-2 here. Get a blockade on this pawn. This could be quite good. The e4 square looks okay for knight d2. Yeah, this pawn wouldn't rule it out. Oh, queen at a5 check has been played. Alright, so if knight c3, we've got d4 here. I don't think white's got knight c3. So knight d2. I wonder if the idea is d takes here. Takes. Just putting the knight on d2, is that some sort of advantage to do that? With the queen on a5 though, there's I think the knight wants to go to e4, it can't, but maybe the idea is d takes c4. Alright. So d takes c4. I don't think anything else here. I mean, I quickly looked at this. I don't think this is doing anything. It would be nice to take with the knight, but CD, there's nothing white can do there apart from be a pawn down. I don't think. So I think we're forced to play. I think we're forced to play d takes c4 here. And we get, I guess, castling. So this knight's pinned for a moment. If we castle, this position. I mean, it looks as though knight b3 might be handy though, just to keep control of if it was white's move. So black's move here, so it still looks as though white's got a pleasant position here. How do we get the bits out? Rook d8. I mean, knight b3 would seem handy. But maybe that's the idea for knight d4 later. Oh, h6, h6. Well, g5 would seem very useful in this situation. So what about just h4? Just to stop this g5 business. Mind you. Is there some naughty intention to win e5 here with g5. Takes, takes, takes,
check,
takes. No. We've got the three things on e5. So knight takes, for example, knight takes. This is risky. It looks as though white could just castle queenside here. Oh, it's too risky, isn't it? B2, A2 and B2. Just wondering. Get on to D6. There's Queen C4 minimum. There's other stuff going on. Look at that. What does white do here? King F1? Anyway, that wasn't the idea. Knight D4. So I guess taking looks pretty sensible. But can we avoid that? Because we are giving the C5 square to black as well. And also there's pressure on E5 again. And if we play Queen D3, C takes. So castle. The Exploding Pumpkin, I didn't delay the stream. This is the ICC stream. It's not the immediate official stream. This is an ICC relay, the Internet Chess Club, that I'm commenting on. It has a little bit of a delay. I'm not sure what you mean, really. The e-pawn's on here, actually. It's taken. It was on. So this is now a pawn sack. What about knight b3? There's queen c7. There's knight takes d4 here. There's bishop takes, g takes, queen takes, knight e6. We go for this.
check,
Yeah. There might be enough compensation here. Actually, there might be even other moves. So knight b3, got to protect e5. c5 taken away, c7. Knight takes d4. Bishop takes. There's also knight e6 in this position. Takes. Queen takes.
check,
No, there was nothing at 11. I made a mistake. I thought there was something at 11. There was no tiebreak needed. Had the 4 qualifiers. This position actually, bishop d5, yeah, on f7. What does black do in this position? I think this is crushing here, because knight e5, there's queen f6.
Check.
So I think knight takes d4 looks tempting here. Didn't do that. Let me just check with an engine this position. Bishop takes e5. What was wrong with knight takes d4? Bishop takes, knight takes. Something slightly wrong with this then. King d8. So king f8 is probably bad. Bishop d5 is winning there. But it seems king d8. Maybe this is why Adams rejected it. That seems fair enough to reject it on that. I don't know, but it still looks quite dangerous. This would have been quite dangerous for the black king, surely. But stuck in the centre. So Adams has just played a much more clear-cut move though. Simple chess move. He's just taken on e5. Okay, queen takes e5. He just wants to get back his pawn. Maybe actually with this move he's stopping castling anyway. I mean, you don't want to lose the h6 pawn. So he's getting his pawn back anyway. Is that with an advantage to take that immediately? I think h6, let's turn this off before it melts the machine. So queen takes d4. We do have a 3-2 pawn majority here, with a bishop which is not that great. This position looks as though d6 could be a problem as well for knight b5 coming up to d6. If black has to play something like a6, it just looks a bit grim on the queen side. So maybe just queen takes d4 with a small edge, less controversial than that other variation. Yeah, the bishop is good, isn't it? Mark Young, yeah, the bishop good. I thought that opening was going well for white. Let's have a quick review on that. What was played to get this position? So just g3, forget all the mainline theory and stuff. g3 here. So we had queen e2 after. It does look to have a lot going for it. So it's a temporary pawn sack. And then there's just queen d2. Nice. But he hasn't even played queen d4. Is this an even stronger move? He's played rook e1. Well, we can't really castle because of queen h6. That'd be such a weak king there, I think. And, you know, anytime we try and weaken like light squares, you know, we can pounce with bishop d5. And it starts to get a bit nasty. There's h5 on the cards here. We've got a pin here. I think that's a bit nasty. So what does black do in this position? That's a really good point. What does black actually do here? Yeah, spectator pieces on the queen side. English refugee, yeah. What does black do? Interesting. Interesting. if we go e5, it does seem to be asking for trouble. Maybe it's just an improvement for queen d4 here. With that pawn there, we've got a target. That looks a bit grim, to say the least. But maybe there's even better to keep the queens on here. C5 actually. Just a sort of gambit here. Oh, there's queen b4. This is a bit embarrassing. Potentially that was knight e4. Still, I mean, it's not ideal for black. So I think this is a big problem. Black's got himself not in a very theoretical light, but it seems to be clearly a very difficult position. Just I don't know what black does here. This is bad news. Maybe, I don't know, this just looks like bad news. Can anyone suggest a move for black? Is there a move for black? What does the engine think here? It thinks white's up nearly 2 pawn advantage. So white's a pawn down technically. The engine thinks white's like nearly 2 pawns up. e5, just queen takes d4. Did it think much of c5? That is better for white. Still knight c5, queen b4, knight e4. I was thinking about taking myself, but the engine's suggesting queen b5. This looks just grim.
Check.
So that would be a piece up scenario. But black's got these pawns. I think that's a bit dangerous with these pawns. Yeah, I'm not sure that's to be welcomed. So probably simplest is queen takes d4. If we get this position, we've got knight b5 coming up. Let's go with g5 to knight. What about knight b5 here? This is all good for white, all this stuff. It seems e5 might actually be the strongest move for black. If we explore just casting for a moment, queen takes h6. There are severe problems here. h5 is good for that pin. Bishop d5 is good, creating that pin there. I think white can do better than queen f6, maybe just taking here. We see we've got some attack possibilities. Alright, he's played king g7. Sorry, king f8, not king g7. That means c5 has got more on the diagonal than before. But still, this queen e4 seems to work okay. How do we exploit the king on f8? What about just, I don't know, rook e4 would force e5. I guess there's not too much. Let's just check this then. What's happening here? Engine suggestions, queen here or rook here. Rook here might support c5. We get c4 gets diagonal. Whoops, we get that diagonal. Well, this is good for that pawn there. That's pretty dangerous. Okay, just to get just there. All right. So back to the game thing. Yeah. If Adams wants to keep the queens on, I would say going for c5 is quite attractive. Rook a c1. Now knight c5 here. There's queen b4, knight e4. There's c5 here. That's really dangerous. Because then taking on d4 layer of queen e7, we're on the rook actually. That would total disaster. So actually, I think that this looks really like a hot move to play rook ac1 here to keep the queens on and play for c5 to just get a tempo on the queen. Instead of exchanging off the queen, we're actually using her to get a tempo with c5. I think rook d1, c5, because this, we're inhibited here with this diagonal. So knight c5, we can just push through with this. There's no b6 again. There's only one move here, and then we get c5 in, and this looks devastating. Devastating here. So rook c1 looks quite crushing, actually. I think queen takes d4 is a bit of a let-off, even though it looks terrible. It's probably a bit of a let-off. You know how resourceful Peter Vidler is. I think you've got to find the best moves against him to put him away. Rook c1. What do you guys think about rook c1? It sort of keeps the tension though, not avoiding the exchange of queens. Oh, knight takes d4. Alright. He's gone for the exchange of queens. Okay. It's still good anyway. It's still good. There's some big problems for black. So how is the wriggling going to start then? This rook's going to rig out like this. This bishop's going to be a problem though for a while. Knight e4. Was there something more specific here? What about just c5 in this position? We take, not rook e5, and we've got things like this. So rook d1 has been played. So torture ahead. Knight e4 to d6, taking here would win that if white was given loads of moves for free. But knight e4 to d6 looks attractive. Let's go with knight c5, trying to stop that. Well, we lose the e5 pawn. That can't be that good. Surely. So, knight e4. f5 looks a bit on the desperate side to stop knight e4. I think c5 here. Rook a6, okay. So knight e4 looks very tempting to go for knight d6. What would be that bad about knight e4 here? It looks very simple to play knight e4 to d6. I suppose black can try knight f6. Now actually the rook's protecting that, so that's possible. Check. King g7. Yeah, I was a bit concerned about wriggling. We can win a pawn here with this. Rook takes e5. But if black doesn't go with that, then it might be even worse, though. That's the thing. What if black doesn't play knight f6, then this knight d6 is threatening to win a piece actually immediately, with knight takes c8 and rook takes d7. If knight c8, knight c5 rather, well, we lose the e5 pawn again, and actually we're on c5. I think there's going to be a material loss. There has to be a material loss, it seems, coming up for black to try and reduce white's pressure after knight e4. The Alan Kramnik match, let's have a quick look at that. I think black is not such in a bad shape here. Did they agree to draw? They agreed to draw, okay. Bishop g4, right. So black's put his bishop back on c8 there. But that's an active rook, isn't it? So that should be enough, that active rook. To draw like that. Okay, so we're on the exciting game here. So knight e4 has what does the engine think? Do they think Swidler's off the hook yet? Then under the cold engine view. No, white's nearly 2 pawns up virtually in this position after knight e4. Knight e4 giving them the best? No, it's not even giving knight e4 as the best, but it looks pretty crushing. It's giving other moves as well. b3. I think knight e4 just looks so amazing. Wasn't played. Bishop e3 was played. Okay. Bishop h3. I would have liked to play knight e4 anyway. So bishop h3 must have very specific ideas. So it was restricting the knight clearly. What about just knight b6? Is that plausible? Just breaking the pin immediately. And knight e4, king g7. Still dangerous, rook d7. Alright, so not even that, it's just king g7. So white can win a pawn here, but is there some compensation? So bishop takes, rook takes. It's a pawn, you know. Maybe that was the idea, just to win a pawn. I can't see the compensation. Knight f3. I'm not predicting many of Mickey Adams' moves. I think I was better predicting Vishianan's moves in an earlier game, but this is awful. It's impossible to predict his moves. Okay, what is going on here? He's slightly improving on bishop d7 now. He is threatening to win the piece. He's going to play knight takes e5. So we're actually threatening to win the piece. So there's no f6, we just win the piece. So the knight looks as though you don't want to introduce another pin, surely. There's just knight takes e5 here. Mind you, knight takes e5 is possible. Or is it? No, we're on the bishop after. Check.
Check.
Now king g2 is a check here. And king h2. No, it's an illegal move. King h1. Anyway, knight c5 is being played. Do we just take on e5, surely? No, we don't take. We've got our bishop loose. Take on c8 and then take on e5. We have this position. Still good for white. Right. I wonder if there's wriggling opportunity for black with rook e6. Or we just play king f1. Play the knight ending. Alright, I managed to predict bishop takes c8. What about knight takes e5? No, rook takes e5. Whoa. Rook b6. And then, hang on. There's rook d5 if we want to push this knight away, and we also get things like the a pawn here. But we might just want to play b3 in this position. That a pawn, where is it going? Oh, hang on. This is a4. There's rook b5. I managed to get that one. Okay, 50 points. Knight e6, another 50. So rook b5 might be the idea to sort of put pressure on the queen side. Okay, b3, I thought that allows a4, which has been played. I suppose rook b5 here still. Okay, that has been played. Well, I guess we could try and grab another pawn because we're going to win b7. Is that enough? I don't think that would be... No, actually, taking we can then take with this. Which is an interesting endgame position. And about b takes looks sort of a bit too greedy. I mean, it's possible. Maybe it's possible. if taking here, we've got the rook takes. No. It keeps the structure intact as much as possible. He just played king g2. So hang on, rook b5, rook c6, king g2, take, knight c7, take. Oh, there's knight d4 here. That protects b3, and we can go into b5 one day. Oh, there's rook e7 coming up. King f6, right. There's rook c5 here to gain a tempo. But then, you know, knight e6, and what about this pawn? What is it? That's a pain there. I don't think so. What about rook a5 or rook e3? If we go rook e3, it gives us knight b5 if this knight moves. We might consider knight b5. There's knight c5. We've got everything stable here. So I think rook e3, just aiming for knight b5 if this knight moves. He has played rook e3. Right, I'm starting to be on the same wavelength a little bit. So rook d6, knight e2. So the knight's heading back here now. So c3, that would be a good square. We can go to c3. Okay, let's give black a move. Knights. Where do we want to move the knight? e6. Oh, let's play b5. Just want to get rid of the pawns now. Knight c3 is being played anyway. He didn't consider c5? I guess not, because then there's b4 soon after probably. So knight c3. I mean, let's just quickly check what would have happened there on c5. Maybe just rook d5. Knight a6. Pain. Possibly. Anyway, so he's just played knight c3, welcoming an exchange of pawns. Oh, actually he's threatening knight e4 check, of course. So hasn't he just won another pawn? Potentially, nearly. No, he might still be playing for c5. He doesn't really want to double his pawns. But black has to address knight e4. Okay, I think we can just play... Oh, he's going for the double pawns. So this outside pass pawn... Let's see, the endgame technique then. Is it just to restrict the king? Just bring the king in over here. Guide the pawn or over here. Just get the pawn down. The king is cut off. So we're cutting off the black king. Can leave the rook there. Is this like technically a win with best play? What do you guys think? Do you think it's technically just a win, or do you think it's going to be tight? Bring the king over. Oh, this king is heading for a bit of counterplay, it seems, to g2. These rook and pawn endings must be treated on their own peculiarities. So there's no definites here. The king coming aggressively here could be an absolute nuisance. And even if white's... if this king got here, it would be an absolute nuisance. Because then we could consider... I've seen an endgame like this in the club match, actually, where it was like drawn eventually because black got kind of... It's too slow there to win this pawn with the queen. But I don't know, king coming to h3 is a bit committal. Why has rook takes b3 been allowed? That's interesting. We've checked. Oh, king c4.
Check.
This is accelerating the pawn, basically sacking a pawn. If he gets access to the b3 square, then we're really accelerating the b pawn here with this pawn sack of b3. It's double pawns anyway. If rook takes, then king c4. We want the b pawn as quick as possible, really, in principle. So we're going to head to c3 soon, and then c4 if needed, b4. So g5. I think might as well. Oh, dead easy. Just get the rooks. Sorry, that was a threat as well. Just get the rooks off. It's total win now. That's easy. Dead easy. Absolutely over. It's tricky Mickey. He's like two threats there. It wasn't just king c3. It was rook e4 check. End of game. Fantastic. That was like totally riskless, like a technique. That was a beautiful positional, like without risk win, without any even controversial opening, not giving black much counterplay after this pawn sack here. Whoa, this pawn sack in the opening. What a fantastic system to play as white for just club players. It doesn't seem very theoretical. White just got an overwhelming position with this pawn sack. It did look on the artificial side to play for moves like queen a5. It's really just about e5. Subject to that tempo gain thing. This is highlighting a flaw with black's stuff like h6 earlier. So he just converted that so well, that advantage. That was, I think that was pretty elegant game. Let's just play for it again.
Check.
I am quite a big fan of Adams and his positional play. Doesn't like to give opponents that much counterplay. It seems black was just in big trouble, especially after this move, dislodging that knight. So didn't mind his pawns being doubled here. So one can always be given away if you've got two of them. One can always be given away for tempo gains, it seems, and that was this king d3 exploits the fact he's got two of them. You can afford to give one of them away, to accelerate the other. That's a really clever thing about this endgame here. You might not count the extra pawn, but the dynamics of the extra pawn is very interesting for this king d3 move. It's making the remaining pawn a bit quicker. King d3. Isn't this wonderful? King d3. And it's also threatening rook e4 check. So black's aggressive idea is leading himself in trouble with these checks. And then it's all over.
Check.
Amazing. So when is the next round? Does anyone know? I'll just check. Beautiful, beautiful game. I have to say, oh, it's a very controlled, like, win, you know. Schedules. Is it a 3:30? I think it's at 3:30 is the next scheduled game. Let's have a look at the other game in more detail, even though it wasn't a decisive result and it's probably a dry game. Should we have a look at it anyway? So, Kramnik played this bishop g5, this early bishop f6. We have a sort of Catalan type pawn sack position. The black queen I thought was a little bit awkward here, on the awkward side on e6, but I guess it's difficult to try and exploit the queen's position. Black has the two bishops, of course. So we have this idea that knight d6 would have been painful for black under certain circumstances.
Check.
Like here. So Vichy finds an accurate move. I wonder what the engine thought of queen d8. It must be one of the only moves to stay in the game, actually. Queen d8. I don't think if we play anything else, we're incurring a big disadvantage. I think this was a really good move. You might not think of queen retreats like that as brilliant moves, but I think sometimes they are. What else would we have played? If we had played rook e8, look, we just get a big disadvantage. I think. No, it's not that big. It's not that big a deal, actually. It's nebulous. I don't know. It's less. If it's less than half a pawn, it's not a big deal. But queen d8 was good anyway. Queen d8, good move. It seems.
Check.
Bishop going back. Yeah. We've just got this active rook. Black's the one on the open file. the only open file on the board. So suppressing e5 a little bit, it will just be a weak pawn if e5. Alright, now rook. I wonder what rook c2 is about here. That's interesting. Rook c2. So black plays rook c2. Why, I wonder? Let's see the game as evidence of what's happening here. Oh, the idea is just to hit the knight, right? And then the knight's kind of stranded, actually. It's stranded on a5. If we can just blockade this pawn, that pawn's not such a big deal. Pressure on c6 and b7. Exchanging off the knight, but leaving black with pressure on a4.
Check. Check.
Yeah.
Check. Check.
Okay. So I think the more exciting game for me was the decisive result game. I think that was really quite elegant. There seemed to be some opportunity even to play more crushingly. Let me just have a quick look at this again with rook c1. The engine move was suggesting rook c1 or something. Coming up with rook c1 is quite crushing here. Oh, we can't. Yeah, because then we have c5, maybe f4 later. It's meant to be quite crushing anyway. Rook c1 for c5 and c6. That's another plan. But what he played, you know, was good as well. It got a very, very clear position. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think I will get a new cup of tea. I'll be back in a few minutes. So I think it's 3:30, so we're talking less than, no, we're talking about 15 minutes or more. So, back in a few minutes. Oh, sorry, who those, someone just quickly, decent, any tips? Well, I don't know. There's lots of videos on the channel to check out. Okay, back in a moment. So at 3:30, in 15 minutes, what's happening? Got Caruana against Gelfand. Yeah, and short against Nakamura. Hey, yeah, I got stuck on evolution of style. I actually started reading around, 1938 to see what happens after the Nottingham Congress. I'm a bit stuck. I might mention. Well, I'm still sort of researching around that time. So chess 1938 onwards, approaching a war. Nottingham. What am I talking about? Not 1938. I'm not really a Barnet fan. No, I'm not really. Oh, shall I show you this club match I played the other night? If I can remember it. I was playing black. Let's flip the board. Not flip. I was playing black the other night. E4, C5. Knight C3, Knight C6. Actually, I've got a score sheet here. No. D3. Knight. Something. E6. I think I might have played E6. There was this odd looking Queen D2. I'm going to get hacked on the king side if I move the knight. I think I reacted with H5 for a moment. Then there was like knight, maybe H3, and then knight E7, knight D1. Got C3 on C5. I played B6, C3, knight here. Was it knight F3, knight E2. Maybe knight E2, D5, D4, C4. Might taken a bit like this. This I thought this was another odd move. D7. I think I played B5 here. Knight F2. Like A5, knight G1, F6, knight here, I think here, Queen E2, 4. No, actually, I think my bishop was on e6. I'm not getting this quite right. No, the bishop was on e6. So, actually, this is more like it with the bishop on f7. And, queen d2. Actually, I think something. This bishop went round here. Actually, I'll get this sort of position. I think it was more like this position. A takes. There was a knight coming to c2. No, need the score sheet really. I think I messed up the thing. Rook e1. No, I think I messed this up. This isn't right. Let's just get this position. No, it's still not right. I have to get the score sheet. I can't get the move order and stuff. Scrap that. Okay, only 8 more minutes. So what's happening in the FIDE Open? Anyway, I guess there's no results yet. Just started. So Hammer is black against 2649 in the FIDE Open today. I don't want to ruin the suspense. I'm gonna do the video, you know, tomorrow maybe or day after. So we'll find out the outcome of that game. So quite a few GMs are playing each other today in the FIDE Open. Why don't we just watch someone playing for a moment, actually? If anyone's playing. If we just do Who T, you get to see the title players on the OCC right now. Just observe. Got a board set up there. Nope, he's not playing. Is anyone playing here? This one with the hash. Bit of entertainment. So who is Sarah Kraut? So my friends were chess friends, Paul Georgiou, Alex Afontes. Oh, he's winning the exchange. Yeah, he said it was interesting. Oh, knight takes b5. Oh, it's nearly winning a piece. Yeah, very nearly. He's winning a piece. Yeah, he is winning a piece. It's going to win on time anyway. Who's that guy? Let's watch another one, I think. Mind you, if it's a 5-minute game, it's going to go over. So let's just put the boards up. Caruana Gelfand. And we got a short against Nakamura. Close this. Let's put one over here. Two over here. Nakamura is he rank 3 now in the world on normal time control games? Just checking. No, he's rank 4. Nakamura is rank 4 in the world. Kramnik is currently rank 3, 2793, and Nakamura is 2786. Adams is actually rank 13, Zvidler 10, Caruana is up there, He's ranked 7. Gelfand is just ranked 8. All pretty high up ranking top world players. Short's a bit lower down though. Yeah. It's very popular not to play the Open Sicilians at the moment, it seems. Well, I've seen a lot of people just don't like the Open Sicilian anymore. It's not what it used to be in the 70s, 80s, 90s of chess. Mind you, I suppose Boris Spassky played the sort of closed Sicilian a lot of the time. Since early knight GE2, or rather, I don't know. Let's check this out again. Knight Z3, G3. It just looks like a just casting. Maybe Bishop E3, Queen D2 later on. Right, Caslan territory here. I guess we can start getting our teeth into this game 1 over here. We just check out game 1 here. So, as black, it could be an accelerated, without a6, it could be accelerated just with b5, b4. The move played over here. Oh! It looks a bit tempting, doesn't it? There's a rook. But it's deliberate. So knight e4. Let's have a look at this as well. So knight e4. We've got d4. Let's play knight e4. 50 points. d4. Yep. Not too hard to guess. Okay. Bishop b2, right? It looks a bit like one of the World Championship games. Game 1 of the World Championship. Looks a little bit like that. Maybe black can just take here and then knight d7. Just to play knight b6 later. It's annoying. Let's check out the other one again. This looks quite exciting. Whatever's happening here looks quite exciting actually. D4 looks plausible. So maybe knight d4. Oh no, I don't have anything here except the abilities of the analysis tab engine. So knight d4, I'd say, to stop d4. This could be a pain for black. We'd be exposing the d6 pawn frontal pressure. I think knight d4 probably has to be played. Or, I don't know, e5 seems a bit weakening on the light squares. Oh, okay, b4. Taking knight for a moment. Right, I guess d4 is not attractive here. I think maybe just d5 actually, and then later we've got things like bishop a6. So queen d2. Maybe bishop h6 in the future. See black castles. I don't know, would it be terrible to play bishop h6? Would it be terrible? Not sure. Would you guys play bishop h6 here? What do you reckon about bishop h6? So we just want to soften up the king usually when we do this. And then later play f4 after exchanging off the bishop. Actually, what about d5? d5 here. It was just taken. e5. b3. d5 again. I mean, I don't know. Would that be terrible? d5. If white played e takes, we get that f5 square. Play f5 later with tempo. And d5 here. What's the matter with that? And there's the c5 square, mind you. Oh, so king h8. Ah, maybe knight g8 to kick the queen away. And then queen f6 taking over this diagonal. These dark squares are a bit weak. Actually, this could be grim. If we get a queen to f6, then we've got bishop a6 to b5 to torch the knight. Black wants to, I think, control these squares again. He's lost his bishop, but it's weakened white on the dark squares as well, getting that bishop exchange as a side effect. So black's queen can substitute for the bishop on diagonal. Then this knight might be a target. It wants to come back to b2, I suppose, at some point. Preferably before there's a queen on f6. So if we tried knight b2, knight g8, would this be terrible? Actually, we're on a5 here, and that's tricky. Here would be a disaster, I think, to e5. I think probably the knight wants to consider coming back. Oh, right, interesting. So in fact, the rooks can double on a5 for knight b2 to c4, but in the meantime there, black might consider d5 again, might go back to this d5, stop the knight coming to c4. Nick White, can the queen go back to f4? Well, I think if he had played queen f4, okay, possibly, you know, f5, possibly. Ah, we get e5 now. So rook a2, e5. And it looks as though Naka would sacrifice his a pawn. If he just allows all this to happen, he can just play now for f5, f4 with a potentially dangerous attack. I don't think white can just go for this pawn with this plan, because it takes so many moves. He'd probably get mated on the king side. After that move e5, it does sort of indicate as though f5, f4 is on the cards. I think we've got to be careful with a move like f4 here, because knight g8. Where's the queen going here? Got to be careful. That's tricky. So knight b2, you might think black's not really interested in stopping the knight. Just maybe plays f5. Even though that seems to be, I think this would be quite dangerous. If the queen like comes back to e3 or something. Maybe d5 here. Looks quite good. So if we can play d4, that'd be quite a lockdown on c3, and this backward pawn potentially on this file will be locked down. ED is like fragmentary for the pawn structure. I'm not really I'm just trying to analyse really. I'm trying to remain neutral here. Paolo, you've asked if I'm supporting one of them. Let's just look at it, trying to be neutral here, and who's got better chances. So he's gone back to e3. So it looks as though, okay, queen c7, he's not committing to f5, queen c7. This c pawn is of interest. Now, actually, I can't see why this doesn't look too... It looks alright for white, I think. Let's consider f5 here. The knight's poised to go back here, attacking e5. I can say knight c4 here. We've actually... It seems to be a very pleasant position, at least in some respects, that we can go for this a pawn. Okay, so bishop g4. What about the king here? It looks as though d4 is more tasty than usual with the king there. Or threatening d5. Takes. Well, there's knight e5 on c2 actually. As long as knight c4 is kind of prevented, this might be unpleasant for I don't know actually. It looks d4 a bit committal. What if I just plays knight c4? That's d5. I think I'm just gonna get a different drink. I think I should stop drinking tea. I've had too much tea. Caffeine overdose. One sec. Right. Now I thought this d5 was a bit of a pain, if knight c4. Aha. There's a threat now, knight d4. For queen takes a knight, takes e2 check. Mind you, king f2. That would be horrible. There's knight e3, it's terrible. So forget that. King gets out of the way. There's f4 here. There's a threat. Oh, still knight d4. Now we just take here. Rook e1. Okay, let's protect that for knight d4. Possibly. So, what is black doing here? Actually, f4 looks, it's on the cards. f4. Put pressure on d5 now. So the knight retreats. Let's just imagine the knight retreating. Okay, queen d8. It is protecting d5 though. Actually, the threat now is knight d4 with this rook facing the queen. Where can the queen step back? f2? f2, is that reasonable? To get out of trouble with the queen? Over here. a1. No, we can't go to a1. It's a bit of an illegal move. But it would have been good because it eyes e5 and a5. But queen f2. Queen f2. So it controls d4 square, and maybe white can aim to play f4. Okay, he has played queen f2. Knight c3. Hitting the rook, that's really taken, I guess. Okay. Or does he take on c4 here? If he does this, this could be knight takes e5. There's the idea to take on c4. So that e5 isn't the problem. That's too dangerous to do this, isn't it? Unless, mind you, nothing's hit over here. So what about knight b4 here? No, the idea was to take on c4, yeah. Okay, bishop takes c4. Interestingly, the knight could move as well now. And I think that looks too passive. I think white wants to shield maybe this c5. Are you sure? I don't think that looks appalling because of the passed pawns. What about d takes? If we make d takes, b takes. Mind you, there's a horrible knight b4 coming up. Okay, if we move the knight, is that maybe that's the lesser evil, just to move the knight to e4. Bishop goes back somewhere. f4. Trying to undermine black's grip a bit with f4. This seems plausible because knight g5 also, and white wants to sort of get into f6 maybe sometimes. This does seem, oh no. Wow, b takes. Okay, b takes. B takes. Rook a3, very clever. Immediately targeting the c3 pawn. Fantastic. Could factor in queen d4 here. And mind you, f4 hits the knight, puts pressure on the knight. black tries knight b4 here, rook takes. Oh, knight a2, knight a2. Got d3 potentially. If rook b3, we can just. No, this knight's hanging over here. Can't play this. Knight hanging. Oh, it's knight b4. Yeah. There's nothing here. Knight b4. Interesting. So taking here, rook a3, rook b2. I'm not sure about that. This is hanging. Mind you, loose pieces around here. There's always queen d6 if rook takes e5. I can't see black entertaining. If this, let's have a look at queen d4 again. So f4. Just take.
Check.
a5. We could take on a5. This looks good for white. I think it looks good for white. This sort of position. Two connected past pawns. Oh, this looks interesting. Like this rook a3. It's of great interest to see how black can address this. I mean, what does black do here? What's the engine think? Yeah. Rook b2, just simply rook b2. Give the pawn. It says, actually, white's better. Equal. Let's not take the pawn. Oh, he's played rook b2. So apparently this is about equal if a4. f4. So rook b2, yep, that looks. This a pawn wants to come down. It is a passed a pawn. So rook takes c3, a4. Actually, there's also queen a5 becomes possible. Let's just try and get this pawn going as well. I think probably has to take on c3. Let's see what's happening on the other game for a moment. Looks good for white. So, okay, let's go again. Rook takes. So apparently the engine suggestion is a4 here. A4 does seem to provide queen a5. Pawn's pretty dangerous. If white doesn't take on c3, then I think he has to, because knight d4 is going to put more pressure on c2. Queen d4. Okay. Alright, so if easy, we can try and win this pawn. But what about f4 here? Hitting the knight. I think, you know, something like this, we can probably just take this and play check.
Check.
And come for this d pawn. Mind you, 2 rooks on the 7th is pretty dangerous. No, that's out of the question. Hasn't done that anyway. Alright, we're getting these 2 pawns. Rook takes e5, a4. Aha. Oh no, nasty. If rook a5, there's knight e2 check. Ouch. This pawn. Oh man. This pawn is really dangerous. No, I think this looks grim actually. If rook here. I don't like the 2 rooks potentially on the 7th here after rook takes. So he takes, we've got rook b8. And rook b1 threatens. Oh dear, oh dear. No, no, no. This doesn't look. I don't like this. All of a sudden. Forget rook a3 for a moment, and this. Oh, I don't know. This looks bad if the 2 rooks come to the 7th. That's quite menacing. I think I'm off actually after this. I've got being out soon, so I might see you tomorrow after this these 2 games. I'm not sure I can carry on actually. But I'll follow these two games, well this one in particular. Let's have a quick look at the other one. Yeah. Undoubling the pawn, but opposite colour bishops. What's going on? Complicated. What's the engine view on this then? Oh, it's as though rook a3 is okay. So rook takes. Right. f4. So if we go rook b8, what's the I thought this was really dangerous to allow the rooks on the 7th, isn't it? Ah, apparently it might be a playable position. Let's put the bishop over here ridiculously, like the suggestion. This might be a playable position apparently. Seems a bit scary a thing to do, but oh, that wasn't the game continuation anyway. What's going on in the game? It's crazy. So, what's this? Knight b5 has been played. Knight b5. That's there. f4. Knight b5. Apparently, white can take this. Take. Wow. If rook a3, then rook b2, king f2. Wow. Crazy stuff. So king f2 was interesting to consider then. I was leaving protection on c2, but instead we get this move, which may be worse. Mind you, dangerous passed pawns. Dangerous passed pawns. What's the matter with that? The rook's coming to the 7th is potentially dangerous. Rook like over here winning a piece potentially. I think that's pretty dangerous. We've got as an emergency measure rook a8 to get the rook off. If we just play rook here, we're threatening mate in 1. Okay, he's using the emergency measure to get the rook off, but I don't think these pawns are going anywhere. I think the king just... Oh no, he's just won that pawn because there's f5. There's a 5 here. Okay, c6 instead. I mean, aiming for c6. No, he's gone for that. Aha! He's going to have a pawn on c6. Gets a pawn on c6. It could be a fortress. sort of position, fortress. If White's just wants to keep moving his king backwards and forwards, it's probably a draw. It depends where this king goes. Where does this king want to go? Over here. Probably over here eventually. Oh no, check.
Check.
Okay. So king f2 fourth. Okay. Check.
Check.
Just put the king back on g1. King starts moving onto let's get to e3, I think. Because then if king f1, we've got check. Imagine the king here. Check would be end of game. Just earlier, should we just check earlier? I think White's a bit stuck for a plan. Here the king's just restricted. Okay, we'll see the selection quite quickly then. Possibly h5 just to stop any pawn exchange. Just h5. Nope. So c7, we're just too quick for the pawn. We're just getting that pawn. King's coming into e3. Should we just theoretically just check a few moves earlier, just out of interest? I just want to quickly check something on this analysis board. That's the current game position. I want to quickly go back for a moment to this idea the engines mentioned, well, this move the engine said. In this position, apparently White was doing well. Well, White was look at this king f2 business here. So rook a5, rook a3 there. See, without losing c2, White would have had apparently a decent position. Isn't that funny? Plus 1.5 there. Let's go back to the game anyway. So White's going to be in Zugzwang soon. It's looking like Zugzwang because bishop g2, check.
Check.
Now if bishop f1, then there's king f3. And if king here, then king f2. It's a slow, horrible loss. So he's played c7. This g3 is going to be dropped off next. So just check.
Check.
then king f2. I'm going to get g3. Did I don't know, did White resign? So he actually played h6. Alright, okay. He's playing for g5, it seems. Wasn't this okay, just out of interest, couldn't this have won as well? This position, let's get an engine view here. Couldn't it? Wasn't there another plan? If we went check and king f2, why isn't this position winning? It's like minus 89 with rook g1. I suspect what I mentioned as well, rook c3 is just winning as well, isn't that minus? It's just once we get g3, that was very simple. So we've got this other plan, it seems. For g5. Let's check the other game for a moment. Could win the a7 pawn here and come back, take on a7. Come back. So bishop d5. Well, there's going to be a threat of f4, isn't there, after g5? Let's take. We're actually threatening f4. I think bishop f3 is a sort of zugzwang here. Let's play rook g7 or something, zugzwang. And if the king moves, of course we've got king f2. We're going to get this g pawn anyway with this plan. Pretty grim, I think. Yeah. So there seemed to be a missed opportunity, though. Strangely, the exchange down with that king f2 earlier. There might have been a missed opportunity. So just f4. Let's play this.
Check.
Oh, f3. Actually, it looks as though king f4 sort of getting a sort of mating that as well with rook c7. Even if we just keep the pawn there, it's like part of mating that. So anyway, white's resigned. Okay. Yeah, probably a missed opportunity there in this game. Interesting. So let's just carry on with this other one for a moment. Oh, he did nab that A pawn. I was wondering if he'd nab that A pawn. Yeah, white takes the time to nab the A pawn. So, opposite colour bishops, you think offers some sort of hope of a draw, but it's like, no, it's just one pawn down. If queen e3 doesn't like rook d3, I think. I don't know, maybe not so clear. So queen d3. There's queen b6 here. Queen b6. There's rook d6. Queen c7. Oh, he's got this queen f4 check. He might do that anyway, just to get the queens off. No, 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 no. Hang on. No, no. I thought there was something. So black might be threatening rook d1. A bishop b4 here. Does that move? Oh, wow. Queen c6. Uh-huh.
Check.
Confident here. G3. H3. So it's offering that pawn. Looks pretty drawish. Oh dear, dear. What is this rook e6? Oh, looks like a draw. Is the king gonna try and do something? Yeah. Go over here. It's gonna. I don't know. I think the king just. We just put this pawn on a light square, and then just get the king over like this. And the bishop. Actually, the king can go here, so the bishop can go there to defend that one, if needed. Alternatively, get this one protecting this one. That's odd. Why did they give up that pawn? Was that needed? Alright, why didn't white want to protect the pawn? Okay, looks pretty drawn now. Draw. Yep. Okay, and it was drawn. Right. Yeah, I hope there was some interest in the other game at least. So maybe I'll see you tomorrow. Actually, I think I'm off now. I hope you enjoyed some of the coverage. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube. See you tomorrow for a bit. Thanks very much. It's the finals day tomorrow.